All right, hey everybody, the moment has come. It's time for my concert review of David Gilmour at Madison Square Garden on the Luck and Strange tour. Now, um, this was a really good show. David Gilmour is arguably the guitarist that got me into music, and so it was great finally getting to see him live, getting to see him, play Time and Comfortably Numb. It was a really good experience. Although I do have some musings about MSG because this was my first time going there, and I have some, well, let's just say, interesting thoughts. Let's get into it. So we got there like maybe like 2 hours before it started. And yeah, this was my first time at MSG, the world's most famous arena. And yeah, it from the outside, it looks very cool. There's a lot more to the outside than I was expecting. You go in, not like we went in not through like the main like circle, but through like this other building that was built in front of it. I think that's part of Penn Station as well. But, so first time at MSG, you go in, I get my merch, and I got this David Gilmour shirt. Let me see if I can get it out, because I don't believe I took a picture of it while I was there. I got this one. Looks nice. I like the colors on it. I think a lot of people wanted this one. And there's the other dates that he did in like other places. I was at the very last date. Is this gonna show up? Yeah, the 10th of November was the date I went. The very last one. So yeah, I got to see on the very last day. Yeah, and so this was the shirt we got. They had a few other options. The rest of them seemed kind of, I don't know. They had a tour program, which at least I think it was a tour program, but I didn't get it. Maybe in hindsight, I would have liked to. I don't know. You could probably find it on eBay pretty easily, I'd imagine. But yeah, yeah, merch. Anyways, in the room to buy the merch in was a lot smaller than I was expecting it to be for such a famous big venue. But anyway, so we head to our seats and something kicks in. Like, now the problem wasn't really the view. I was fine with the view, like it was kind of far, and like they did look a bit squinty at times, especially during like certain songs where the lighting was a certain way, but for the most part, you could see decently. The problem was the actual seats themselves. This place felt so fucking poorly built. It felt so fucking like I know I probably shouldn't be swearing this much, but it felt so just, it felt like the whole place was gonna collapse. It felt like, I don't know, like, okay, because the way we were seated, it felt like the way, like, the seats were positioned, it literally felt like you could just fall down really easily and kill yourself. It's like, it just felt so, like claustrophobic, so closed in, and, like, sure, I liked the venue anyway still, because it, had that sort of, like, old vintage vibe to it, because, it's been around for a while, but it just doesn't feel good to be sitting in the seats. They're all close up. They're all close together. It's very packed, very tight, and it's just not very comfortable. Yeah, it's not very comfortable. It wasn't. I don't think this place was built the best, but you do what you got to do. And I mean, hey, it was still pretty cool to be in the same building where The Song Remains the Same was shot. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's, I guess, some of my thoughts on the venue. I don't know. I think there's better venues than MSG. Honestly, MSG is only famous as it is because of where it is and like history. Because it's in New York. It's in one of the most famous cities in the world. It's like the center of the world. That's the only reason why MSG is so big. Yeah, it's not a great place, but well, it's been made a great place because of all the cool shit that's gone on there. But it's just not very well built. Anyway, that's enough of my thoughts on that. Anyways, so let's get to the start of the show. So yeah, so for some of these numbers, again, I apologize if you have a hard time seeing what's going on. It's because some of the lighting and like the way my phone's camera reacted to it was a bit funny. Anyway, so David, like the lights go out and David just comes on stage, under this red light, and he starts off with these two guitar instrumentals, a song called 5 a.m. and a song called Black Cat. They were just sort of quiet sort of guitar instrumentals. Interesting way to start the set. What wasn't bad. It was they were good instrumentals, and hey, I mean, that's the first thing I hear from David Gilmour in person. That's cool, that's like these will forever be remembered for me as the first things I heard with David Gilmour in person. And yeah, for that it's really cool. It sounded really nice. Anyway, then we get to the first, I guess technically the first song, but I those the instrumentals technically kind of songs too. So we get to the title track of Luck and Strange. Yeah, so this was a sort of cool, sort of sort of felt a little bit jazzy, kinda. The main riff was like boom, boom, boom. I kind of like that. It was a fun number. It was a nice sort of number. I liked the feeling of it. It definitely had a good mood, good mood to it. I liked how that number felt to watch and listen to. That I liked that one. That's a good song. But then after that is the first of the really good stuff from the show. After that, we get Speak to Me, the sounds, of course, then Breathe and Time. Yeah, so he plays Breathe, beginning of Dark Side of the Moon. Oh, and man, it felt so cool getting to see and hear David Gilmour, singing that. And, yeah, it was so fucking cool. And they skip over On the Run. I'm guessing maybe they just felt like maybe just shouldn't include it. Maybe they felt it was too much of just a noise track. I like it. For guys not too into noise tracks, I kind of like On the Run. But anyways, then of course you have Time, one of the best songs on Dark Side of the Moon. And as you know, my thoughts about Dark Side of the Moon, it's the album that, in my eyes, saved my life. It changed my life. I have a whole video about that. I mean, just go watch that to know my thoughts on Dark Side of the Moon as a whole. But yeah, Time, seeing David Gilmour do the solo for Time, seeing the iconic screen film in the background, just so good. This was one of my favorite moments ever going to a concert here. That was just fucking great. And it was cool that I could see him pretty well, during this number. And yeah, it was great, man. Just great guitar solo, one of the best tracks on Dark Side of the Moon. I'm glad this was like sort of like the main Dark Side track he decided to feature, because it's definitely one where he definitely shows himself off very strong. Would have been nice to have Money too, but I saw that with Roger Waters, so you know. Yeah, and I guess before we get on to the next song, I will say that later on, a version of Great Gig in the Sky appears, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But because of this, that means I have heard the grand majority of Dark Side of the Moon live, counting the songs that they did in at the Roger Waters concert. I've heard practically the whole album now live, except for On the Run. That's the only one. David that night played Breathe in Time and Great Gig in the Sky, while Roger played the rest of the album, side 2 of the album, with Money through Eclipse. And yeah, so that technically means that I've heard most of the album live now, which just feels so good, being such a big fan of the album. That just feels great, having been able to, hear that much of the album live, and see it live. It would be nice to have see On the Run, but I could deal with it. Anyways, then he did a track from After Time. He did a track from Atom Heart Mother, which was a real surprise of an addition, Fat Old Son. Now, it makes sense why he would choose this song, of course, though, because it's the song he wrote. He plays literally every instrument on it on the original recording, except for the keyboards, which is Richard Wright. But yeah, it's yet another great song. I call it the granddaddy of Comfortably Numb, because it's sort of like a similar sort of song with like a very emotional guitar solo at the end, So it's sort of like the granddaddy to it. 9 years earlier, I should say. Yeah, Fat Old Son was a really cool addition. And for this one, they decided this was the first number where they decided to actually have him appear on the Pink Floyd screen in the back. I don't know why they didn't do it for any of the earlier numbers, but this was the first one where they decided to do it. And some of the later numbers, they also don't do it for some reason. But yeah, this was the first one where you could see him on the little back screen. But yeah, great guitar solo, that song. Great sort of folksy tune. Then he did a song called Marooned. Now, this is a track, I believe, off the Division Bell, which is an album I haven't listened to. I'll admit I'm not really too into the 80s, 90s Pink Floyd stuff. I listened to Momentary Lapse, wasn't a big fan. And I'm assuming that Division Bell is pretty similar. At least from what I've heard, it's kind of similar. So, But I will say that Marooned was another pretty cool instrumental. I liked the screen projection they had for this one. It was just a simple, sort of like 90s 3D render of the Earth. It shows its age, but I like that stuff that shows its age like that. I like that stuff. So it felt like I was in the 90s for a bit. And yeah, that was it's a good instrument. It was a good instrumental. Good sort of another nice guitar instrumental. And there was a song called A Single Spark. I don't really remember much of that one. I'm sorry. And then they did the classic Wish You Were Here, which was, one of the most popular Pink Floyd songs, one of the most iconic, and yeah, here I got to hear David Gilmour singing it. Last time it was Roger Waters, now I get to hear the guy who actually sung it on the original recording, David Gilmour. And yeah, classic song, everybody was singing along, just classic, beautiful acoustic song. Yeah. Then after that, he did a couple of songs with his daughter, Romany Gilmour. She would go on to appear for pretty much the rest of the set. Yeah, so he did this cover of a song by a band called the Montgolfier Brothers, which also appears on on Looking Strange. And it seemed like a nice song. His daughter has a nice voice. She seems like a pretty good harp player. I actually didn't get that much footage of it though for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that was nice. That was a nice one. Then he ended the first set with another song from the Division Bell, High Hopes, and this is a track I've heard a lot about before, hearing it live, and I could tell why this track is like really popular, because it does have some cool stuff going on, like David's sort of like a slide guitar solo at the end, pedal steel solo at the end is pretty damn cool. Sort of reminds me of One of These Days, and definitely very emotional song. And the cool thing is that at the end of this number, they started throwing out these like balloon balls out into the audience with the 90s Pink Floyd logo on it, and everybody was bouncing them around. I wish I was closer to the stage so I could have been bouncing those balls around, because they didn't come up to us. They didn't come up to where we were sitting, but it was fun to watch. That was definitely a cool little visual spectacle to go along with the song. I wonder though, how did they get all the balls back? How did they get them? How do they end up back with the touring crew? Because there's people bouncing them around. I'm surprised they all made it back relatively on time. I guess maybe they have people go into the audience, to make sure they get back to the stage or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was cool. That was cool. I like this one. Yeah, and so first set, really good. A lot of good Pink Floyd classics in there. Definitely had a good energy going on. Unfortunately, the second set kind of fell off, I feel. The second set, I feel, was kind of the biggest flaw with the concert. Although it kind of depends on what you're a fan of. So when the second set, I will say something cool about it is that there was a lot of lasers. That was really cool. It was visually really cool. There was a ton of lasers, a ton of nice visual treats during it. That was easily the best part of the second set. But unfortunately, the song selection, it's not really, I guess, for people who like 80s, 90s Pink Floyd, this was probably really nice. And also, if you really like the new album, this was also pretty cool, I'd imagine. But if you're more into regular Pink Floyd, if you're more into the 70s Pink Floyd stuff like I am, then I don't know. Then yeah, this second set was a bit more lackluster for you. So he opened up the second set with the song "Sorrow" from Momentary Lapse. Not a bad song. Again, the visuals here were really cool, because this was one where they had all the lasers going around. It looked really nice, all these green lasers. So that was really nice. He then did another song from the new album, then a song called "A Great Day for Freedom" from Division Bell. Then there's this song "In Any Tongue." Now, I like to point this one out because there was this interesting video in the background for this one. I hadn't seen this video before, and it was interesting. It was like a guy, like a soldier, I guess, not wanting to fight with the rest of the soldiers anymore or something like that. It was an interesting story to watch on the screen, and the way it faded into the guitar solo at the end was kind of cool. So that one was interesting. Then we get the only sort of classic Pink Floyd song of the second set, as mentioned earlier, Great Gig in the Sky. Now, this was a really nice rendition of it, because I liked how much more sort of quiet it was. They made it into more of like a jazzy, quiet, sort of like piano piece. Like, playing the piano was like one of his backing singers, actually, and, it was just the four of them, I think. I don't remember. It was Romany and the other backing singers, just sort of, singing the parts, but a lot quieter. There wasn't really any screaming like the original song. There's no SpongeBob scream, the ha ha. But this was just, it was nice. It was very nice. David actually did a slide guitar solo during this, which was really cool too. So this was a nice one. I liked this version of Great Gig in the Sky. It was a nice little sort of quieter, down tempo version of it. I liked it. Then he did another solo song, a sort of quieter solo song called Boat Lies Waiting. Then he did another song from the Division Bell called Coming Back to Life. I went to the bathroom during that one. Yes. Anyway. Then after that, he did a song called Dark and Velvet Nights. This one had a really creepy video in the background. Like, the video for this one was scary. Like, I don't know. It just did not make me feel good. Like I don't really know if it fit the song very well, personally. It just looked too creepy to fit in with, like, from what I've heard is literally, the lyrics to the song are literally just a poem written by his wife on, like, their anniversary or something. Yeah, I don't know. That video was fucking kind of creepy. I know, I'm not supposed to be swearing. But yeah, that video was kind of creepy. I don't know. Then, he does another song. He ends off the second set with two other songs from the new album, ending it off with the final track from the new album, Scattered. Now this was I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be like the epic off the album, I guess you could say. From what I saw, it was like 7 minutes. It seemed like a nice song, nice guitar work. I think it sounded nice. But then we get to the encore. Comfortably Numb, baby. Yeah, this was a special number, man. This was great. Comfortably Numb, all the cool lights, David's legendary guitar solo, everybody's singing along to it, everybody keeps cheering at like various points. It's just so hype. There's just so much hype in the air during this number. Oh man, it was another one of my favorite moments ever of going to a concert. This was easily one of the highlights of the show. Flipping Comfortably Numb, of course. Great number. Although I will say at times, like, the smoke machine they were using did make it a little hard to see David at points, but for most of it I could see him, thankfully. For most of it, I could see him just fine. But, anyway, yeah, so, Comfortably Numb was great, great way to end the show. I was hoping for one more additional encore, considering this was the final date of the tour, but unfortunately he didn't do one. Sucks, but whatever. He still ended off the show on a great note. Yeah, so. Yeah, and interestingly, even after, he got off stage, everyone got off stage and the show was over, the disco ball kept spinning for like a decent amount of time, and like the background on the screen was on there for like a pretty decent amount of time too. I guess they just sort of just want to keep the mood for a bit. I don't know. We didn't end up leaving until like all of it stopped, and I will say from where we were sitting, it was kind of a long way to get back down, which was kind of annoying, but whatever. Yeah, so that's the concert. Overall, great show. Very glad to have seen David Gilmour, despite the second set sort of being a bit, for me personally, a little bit lackluster. For other people, it might have been really cool. I still had a really good time at the show. David is one of the greatest guitarists ever. He arguably introduced me to the world of guitar in a way. He's just a legend, man, and it was great getting to see such a legend in live performance, man. It was just so good. Despite the venue being a bit uncomfortable, even though it is MSG, and lackluster second set. Overall, good show, really good show. I wish I could recommend you go to it, but the tour is over. Normally I recommend, if he's coming to your area, go see him. But unfortunately, this is a case where it's over. What a shame. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I will see you guys next time. I may be doing a review of this Almond Betts show, it's like a reunion of the children of the Allman Brothers. I might go to that. I'm not sure. If I do, then expect a review of it, and possibly also a review of another Jason Bonham concert as well. Yeah, so see you guys when those come out.